The story of Chuck Norris passing away in March 2026 may sound emotional and powerful, but it's important to be clear. There is no verified, credible evidence that Chuck Norris has died. Viral narratives like this often spread quickly because they tap into something deeper, our connection to larger-than-life figures. But blending fiction with real-life biography can mislead people and distort the truth. Chuck Norris, as of the latest reliable information, has not been confirmed deceased. What this story really reflects is how strongly people feel about him. When someone becomes a symbol of strength and resilience, even rumors about their passing can feel personal. So instead of treating this as fact, it's more meaningful to focus on the real journey of the man himself, one that is already powerful without needing dramatic embellishment. Why people believe these stories so easily. There's a reason stories like this gain traction so quickly. Chuck Norris isn't just a celebrity, he's become a cultural symbol. For decades, people have associated him with toughness, endurance, and almost mythical strength. The internet amplified that image through memes, turning him into a figure who never ages or never loses. So when a story emerges that contrasts that image, showing sudden loss, it creates emotional shock. That contrast is what makes it feel believable and impactful. But the same emotional pull can blur the line between storytelling and reality. In truth, these kinds of narratives say more about how people perceive Chuck Norris than about actual events. They reflect admiration, nostalgia, and the human tendency to build legends around individuals who inspire us. The real beginning, a difficult childhood. The true story of Chuck Norris begins far from Hollywood or internet fame. Born Carlos Ray Norris in Ryan, Oklahoma, he grew up in a household marked by financial hardship and instability. His father struggled with alcoholism, and his mother worked tirelessly to keep the family afloat. These early years were not filled with strength or confidence. Norris has openly described himself as shy, introverted, and unsure of his place in the world. He dealt with insecurity and even a stutter that made communication difficult. This background matters because it shows how far removed his later image is from where he started. The toughest man alive persona wasn't something he was born into. It was something he built slowly through discipline and persistence. The turning point in the Air Force. Everything began to change when Norris joined the United States Air Force in 1958. Stationed in South Korea, he encountered martial arts for the first time. What started as a way to pass time quickly became a defining part of his life. Training gave him structure, confidence, and a sense of identity he had never experienced before. He immersed himself in Tang Soo Do, practicing relentlessly and pushing beyond his limits. This wasn't about becoming famous, it was about becoming capable. By the time he returned to the United States, he was no longer the same person who had left. The discipline he developed during those years became the foundation for everything that followed, shaping not just his career, but his entire outlook on life. From failure to champion, Norris's early competitive career was far from smooth. He entered tournaments and faced repeated defeats, losing to some of the best fighters of his time. For many, that kind of start would have been discouraging enough to quit. But Norris took a different approach. He studied his losses, adjusted his techniques, and trained even harder. Over time, those setbacks became stepping stones. By the late 1960s, he had transformed himself into a dominant competitor, eventually winning the professional middleweight karate championship and holding it for 6 consecutive years. His journey from struggling beginner to undefeated champion wasn't built on natural talent alone. It was built on persistence. That pattern of falling, learning, and rising again would define the rest of his life. Hollywood and the Bruce Lee connection. Chuck Norris's entry into Hollywood came through his friendship with Bruce Lee, a relationship rooted in mutual respect. Their iconic fight scene in The Way of the Dragon introduced Norris to a global audience and remains one of the most celebrated moments in martial arts cinema. Despite popular myths, there was no rivalry between them, only admiration. Lee saw potential in Norris and helped open the door to acting opportunities. From there, Norris built his career gradually, starring in films that emphasized realism and physical skill. He wasn't the flashiest actor, but audiences connected with his authenticity. His presence felt grounded, shaped by real experience rather than performance alone. That authenticity became his signature. becoming a cultural icon. By the 1980s and 1990s, Chuck Norris had become a recognizable figure worldwide. Films like Missing in Action and Delta Force cemented his image as a no-nonsense action hero. Later, Walker, Texas Ranger, expanded his reach even further, turning him into a household name. The show combined action with moral storytelling, reinforcing the values Norris often spoke about: justice, discipline, and responsibility. Then came the internet era, where Chuck Norris facts transformed him into a legend of humor and exaggeration. While the jokes were over the top, they were rooted in admiration. People didn't just see him as an actor, they saw him as a symbol of resilience, someone who represented strength in a way that felt timeless. The man behind the image. Behind the public persona, Norris's life has included personal challenges and difficult moments. He has spoken openly about mistakes, including issues in his early marriage, and has taken responsibility for them. His willingness to acknowledge flaws adds depth to his story. He's not just a figure of strength. He's someone who has faced consequences, learned from them, and tried to grow. In later years, his focus shifted more toward family, faith, and personal values. He became involved in charitable work, particularly programs aimed at helping young people build confidence and discipline. These efforts reflect the same principles that shaped his own transformation, showing that his legacy extends beyond entertainment. Why the invincible image stuck. The idea of Chuck Norris being indestructible didn't come out of nowhere. It's tied to the consistency of his life story. He faced adversity early on, overcame it through discipline, and maintained that mindset throughout his career. Whether in martial arts, film, or personal challenges, he demonstrated a pattern of persistence. That consistency made it easy for people to see him as unbreakable. The internet simply amplified what was already there. But even the strongest individuals are still human. Recognizing that doesn't diminish his legacy, it makes it more meaningful. His achievements are impressive not because he was invincible, but because he kept going despite very real obstacles. What his story actually teaches. Instead of focusing on unverified claims or dramatic endings, the real value in Chuck Norris's story lies in what it represents. It's about transformation, discipline, and the ability to build strength over time. It's about taking a difficult beginning and turning it into something meaningful through consistent effort. Whether someone sees him as a martial artist, an actor, or a cultural icon, the core message remains the same. Strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop. And that idea, more than any myth or rumor, is what has kept Chuck Norris relevant for so many years.